Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the next mini-series, which is all about Client Brief 5. I know that a lot of you have got a few questions about this, and it really didn't help that the final lecture of the year, due to obviously the coronavirus issues, wasn't particularly well attended. But that's not your fault, so I just want to cover basically what we covered in this mini-series. In the first episode, I'm just going to go over, the brief, the documentation, those kinds of things that you should be doing before you start work. And then I'm just going to go over some of the key roles and some of the work that those roles can do. So the first thing that we should do is have a look, obviously, as I said, at the documentation. So here I have, on the left, I've got the client brief, which is available on Moodle. And then on the right, I have the template for the report that you all need to use. So I remember that we made up a template previously, and that's okay for the other briefs, and that's optional. You don't have to use it. It's just a recommended structure. For Client Brief 5, you really do need to use this template as a group. It helps me kind of identify what work you've all been done, and to allocate marks appropriately. So and feel free to either include this as a separate document, or you can go ahead and just cut this straight out of here and put it at the end of your document. Now, for Client Brief 5, the whole idea is that you need to produce something collaboratively. Okay, so one of the core learning outcomes of the module is to put together lots of different pieces from different places. Right, so here again, Client Brief 5, we've got the key skills. So 3D modeling, animation, materials, rendering, and then the last two, teamwork and communication. Right, so whilst you may only demonstrate one of these per person in your team, depending on what your role is, everybody should be able to demonstrate these two. Okay, and that's very much what this document's for. So here we have an introduction. So write a brief introduction to the project here. So the project is about, let's see, so for this brief, you're required to work as a group of 4 to produce a short point of view animation of a roller coaster. Each member of your team will take on a specific role and will be assessed on their ability to fulfill that role. So in here, you want to just talk about, you don't need to talk very long, maybe 100 words, just what the assignment is, so that anybody reading the brief has an idea of what you're trying to do. Now here, what I want you to do, and it's very important, is that you write the names of the members of your team and which role they were assigned. That means that when I'm marking it, I can look at, say, this section, say the animation section. I can scroll down to that. I can read all of that, and I can get a mark, and then I can give it to that person. So if you don't put your name in, you won't get any marks. Okay. And I know what you're thinking is, well, why would I have lots of other people's work, and names in my work? Well, this client brief is collaborative. So although the other 4 will be individual and they'll be separate and unique to you, all members of this team will submit the exact same document, okay, for this client brief. And you may be thinking, well, what happens if they've not done their part, and they'll get marks for my part? But that's not true at all, because again, you will have your names on these, and I will only assign you marks for that portion of the work. Okay, so in the project is designed to test your ability to work collaboratively within a creative pipeline and produce a piece of combined media. So these are the team roles: the 3D modeler, animator, environment artist, and materials and textures. And you have a short time to produce this, which is very true. So we're not expecting, industry standard but you know, you can have a good crack at it and see what you can put together. So once you've developed your team and you've put your team you know, names in there, and you've assigned your roles, you need to come down here and you need to as always throw in a few details of what you're thinking about, maybe a sketch of what you're planning, maybe a little storyboard, so some of the key kind of environment points or something that you want to put in. Again, this part, along with the introduction and then right at the end, the summary, these are where the group mark comes from. So every member of this team will receive the same mark for these sections. So feel free to write them collaboratively or assign it to a job for one person. Either way, however you work best, that's the best way. So once you've done that and you've decided, you know, what kind of theme your roller coaster is going to be, what kind of materials is it going to be made of, is it going to be a wooden coaster, is it going to be metal, is it going to be you know, really fast, is it going to have some hangs, is it going to be a water-based one, is it going to be futuristic, is it going to be retro, all of those kinds of things. Put those in there, and then what you do is you kind of break away and you start working on your key parts. Now I'm going to produce some very quick introductory kind of videos that are separate from this one, each covering the core roles of this task. But really the most important thing to start with is the line. Okay, so there is some tools in various 3D packages that you can use to make different lines, and we'll be using that as a guide for a whole range of things. So we will be covering that first. So let's go ahead and go to the next video where I'll start talking about that.